right, we are just about ready to go. Let's get this Instagram feed up. And here we go. All right, I am Coach James. I am the creator and lead instructor for All About Aerodynamics. What is All About Aerodynamics? Glad you asked, even if you didn't ask. All About Aerodynamics is the science program where I use Hot Wheels cars to teach kindergarten through 6th grade students about a range of science and physics-related topics, including but not limited to aerodynamics, drag, lift, kinetic energy, potential energy, Isaac Newton and his 3 laws of motion. What else do we discuss? Downforce, drag. All of these physics-related topics we discuss. We conduct experiments to drive home those concepts. And then after we have discussed the topics, after we've learned the science, then I bring in about 400 different Hot Wheels cars. And each student has the opportunity to select a Hot Wheels car they think would be fastest in a series of races based on everything they've learned in the course. Then, after they've examined their cars, they've weighed their cars, they've tested the speed of their cars, they have checked the year the car was manufactured, all of the information that they can observe, they enter into a spreadsheet once they've made all their observations. Then we set up a 1/64th scale quarter-mile drag strip. The students race their cars, and they observe how their cars perform. Did their cars perform up to or below their expectation level? And if they had the opportunity, would they select those cars again? Or would they make a different selection based on their observations? So we have fun with Hot Wheels cars. We learn science. What could be better? But this is not all about aerodynamics. This is All About Aerodynamics presents Wind Tunnel Wednesday. So what is that? I was able to purchase from a company called Funtech Labs a 1/64th scale wind tunnel. So you can put Hot Wheels cars in it and other die-cast cars of that size. Turn on the wind tunnel, and you'll see smoke streams that flow over, under, and around the cars. And from that, we can actually get an idea about the aerodynamic profile of each of these Hot Wheels cars. Why is that important? It's important in the scheme of me teaching a class about aerodynamics, but it's also important because we have this over here. If you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, or if you're looking on Instagram on a computer screen, you're going to see some information off to, I guess it would be, it's the right side of your screen. But it's about AtTheTrack.live. AtTheTrack.live is our program on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, where we actually race Hot Wheels cars. And I go into my storage and I pull out Hot Wheels cars that need to be introduced into the fleet. We do little reviews, take some video, take a picture, and then after we've got those cars collected, have a little mini tournament. And in that mini tournament, we determine which of those cars is fastest. But wait, there's more. You have the opportunity to participate and select a car to race. Just like today, you're going to have the opportunity to select a car that you want to see in the wind tunnel. And all you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live. The address is down at the bottom of the screen. When you do that, you will have 3 options. One's the YouTube stream link, one's the Twitch stream link. The third most important option is the one that says choose your car. And if you select that option, you will be taken to this page. And on this page, all of the cars in the All About Aerodynamics AtTheTrack.live fleet are listed. We are currently up to about 849, 850, somewhere right around there. 800, and let's just go ahead and say 850. 850 cars are listed. There are pictures. They are numbered. They are all right there. So what does that mean for you? All you have to do is scroll through, find the car that you think that you might want to race on Saturday. And even though today is Wednesday, what you can do today is find the car that you might want to race. Let's say it is this Rockin' Santa sled. You can click on it. You can take a look at it up close, see the reflection to see if it's a plastic body on a metal base or a metal body on a plastic base. And once you make those determinations, if you decide, yeah, this is the car that I want to see in the wind tunnel, or this is the car that I want to see race, just take that number in this case 314, you would drop it in the chat. I will pull the car and we will throw it in the wind tunnel, and you'll be able to get an idea about the aerodynamic profile. You can take a look at it and see if this is the car that you want to go with. And if it turns out that is the car you want to go with, then you will have the opportunity to see it perform on the track on Saturday, 11 a.m. Pacific. Now, once you select that car, once you've picked your car, once you've got your car already, and we take it to the track, we're going to race it against the other cars. Maybe you beat those cars, maybe you don't. But if you beat those cars, if you win the tournament on Saturday, then you will have the opportunity to take on our fastest in fleet car, which is the car that's been winning the tournament or won the tournament for the previous week. And in our case, our fastest in fleet car is this one. It is the Blitz Speeder. It is the fastest Hot Wheels car on the planet. And it has proven itself week in and week out. At the end of 2024, this car was our champion for 17 weeks. It lost. It came back about a month ago and beat the car that beat it. So it is our two-time champion. And since then, it has not really had many close races. Very few, if any. And so you will have the opportunity to pick a car to beat the Blitz Speeder. And maybe you can do it. You have 850 different cars to choose from. So the odds are that there's one car in there, at least one car, that is faster than the Blitz Speeder. But until we find that, the Blitz Speeder is our top car. So what we're going to do is, as always, hey, Roughshod, how's it going? We are going to start off with the Blitz Speeder. The Blitz Speeder is always going to be the first car into the wind tunnel, because the idea is that this is our fastest car. So if you're going to pick a car that is going to beat the Blitz Speeder, then you would think, or at least be competitive with the Blitz Speeder, you would think that it would need to have a similar aerodynamic profile. So we're going to check that out. We're going to take a look at what we're seeing, and I am going to get the Blitz Speeder, and let's switch over to our wind tunnel. And I've made some minor adjustments. I'm always trying to work on the camera angles and the presentation and all of that. And this is about our fourth episode of Wind Tunnel Wednesday, and so still working some things out, trying to get the best views and angles. And so what I did this time is I raised up the wind tunnel and lowered the camera view so that we're getting a more direct side profile look at the car. Before, the view was a little bit elevated, so it was kind of like we were looking slightly down at the car, and I think that prevented us from seeing some of the airflows and as clearly. So now we're just looking straight in at the car, and when you look at it at this angle, the Blitz Speeder, you can really see why that airflow and the aerodynamic profile on this car. You can see what makes it let's see. Okay, here we go. Got it. All right, now we're gonna just turn these jets on here. We've got the airflow. This is at 67 miles an hour. This is usually where we start out before we crank it up. And what I was saying is that you can tell from the shape of this car, you can really get a good sense of why and how it's able to reduce drag and still be one of our fastest cars. Let's crank this up. We're at 107 miles per hour. Now, the one thing that you want to look for as we put these cars into the wind tunnel, excuse me, is the air when it hits the front of the car and then starts to travel up over the top. What we want to see is, we do not want to see flow separation. We want to see this airstream flow right along the body of the car, right to the tail end until it comes off. And basically, it's the Coanda Effect, which explains how moving fluids like air tend to follow a curved surface. And that's exactly what we're seeing happening. When we start to see the air separate from the body of the car, that is a problem, and that creates pressure differentials and a different kind of drag. So let me go ahead and turn this up. We're at 107 miles per hour. Now we're at 147. And so you see this kind of vortex and this swirling turbulent air at the rear. That's not as much of an issue because we're going to see that with most of the all of the cars, really. But this is what we're looking at here. This line right here where the air is just following straight across. There's no flow separation, right to the tail and off of that large wing that we have there. So that's at 147 miles. We're up to 188. You can see the air hitting the car right in the front and then flowing right up over the top. And there's some turbulence down around the bottom. So there's a high pressure area right at the front. And this is ideally what you want to see from the car that you select. You want to see the air flowing, adhering to the body, and not detaching. And we'll see some examples a little later of the airflow detaching from the car and the problems that causes. So that's the Blitz Speeder. That is our fastest in fleet car. That is the champion. That is the measuring stick, the bar. And if you can find a car that is faster than this one, than the Blitz Speeder, you're doing something, because we have been, like I said, it was champion for 17 weeks, and then it lost, and then it came back and beat the car that beat it, and has been champion for about the last month, and the races haven't been close. This car is absolutely just ridiculously fast. So if you want to see how the Blitz Speeder performs, if you haven't been watching At The Track Live, you can go to our YouTube page, and under the live tab, you will see all the episodes listed, and time codes are in there, so you can skip right to the races or the reviews, whatever it is that you want to see. It's all right there. Now, we did have some cars that we raced on Saturday, because it works two different ways. So the cars that I have in storage are still in the package. On Saturdays at the Track Live, we crack those packages open, take a look at the cars, take them to the track. And then on Wednesday, after we've seen how the cars performed on the track, we bring them into the wind tunnel and see how what we observed on the track matches up with what we're seeing in the wind tunnel. And one of the cars that, I'm calling it a car, it's not a car, you're going to see. It was this one, the Skate Grom. And it's a Hot Wheels skateboard with a little detachable skater on the top. And we raced this car, skateboard, on Saturday. And it did better than I expected. But ultimately it was beaten by some of our actual cars that were racing. And we weren't able to keep the skater. So the skater detaches. You can pop him off like that. And once you take the skater off, that's the way that we had to run the skateboard when it raced, because we didn't have any, or the skater was just too tall, and we couldn't keep the skater on and keep the skateboard on the track. So we had to do it that way. So what we're going to do is put this in the wind tunnel, because what I saw is that this part right here on the skateboard is solid. Right there. I think if that had been open, so that the air could flow straight through to the back, I think that this thing would have done better. But having the lip come up and having this solid piece right there, I think that the air was building up right here, pressing against this, and I think that that ended up ultimately doing this skateboard in and preventing it from having the kind of run that it probably could have had. But that was sort of my speculation and my guess. Now that this is that we've taken it out of the package, we're going to throw it in the wind tunnel and see exactly what the air is actually doing with this thing. So let's head back over to the wind tunnel and throw this in. And remember, if there's a car that you want to see in the wind tunnel, all you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live and select the choose a car option, find the car, drop the number in the chat, and I will pull it and we will take a look at it. So let's see. Okay. We'll put it with the skater. I'll leave the skater on. And then we will take him off and see what we can see. So this is the skate Grom, and I know it's a little hard to see the skater with it being all in black, but all right. So we can already see right at the front where the air is hitting that solid piece, and then it's having to break out around, it's coming out around the edges. And we've got the skaters. This is at 53 miles per hour. This is 67, which is usually kind of our baseline position that we start from. And so what I was talking about with the airflow, you can see we've got these air streams right here, and then as soon as they hit, well, this one it's hitting the lip, coming up over the top. You can see the air just kind of swirling around here. It is not necessarily following the body. The air is just tailing off in multiple directions, and back here it's just a complete mess. Some of the air that's spilling around the sides is just streaming off and flowing off the sides. And what you end up having, I'll turn this up. You end up with a pressure differential, essentially. And you get high pressure building up in the front where the air is striking the front of the skateboard in this case, and then it's got to go somewhere. It's got to go over, under, and around, and then where it's breaking off, where those flows are separating, then it ends up creating lower pressure at the back end, and that creates pressure drag, which works to slow this thing down. So this is at 134 miles per hour, and what we're gonna do is let me remove the skater, because when we ran this on Saturday, we did not include the skater because it wasn't going to fit on, we couldn't fit the skater on the track. So this is pretty much how we, not pretty much, this is exactly how we ran the race. We ran this down the track, ran the skateboard down the track, just like this. And so there wasn't, we didn't have the skater creating drag. So let's see what differences we see with the skater removed. We're still seeing that when the air hits the front, that area that I pointed out, that solid area, it's still, the air is just building up right there in the front, and then it has to flow somewhere. Now, typically, it would build up in the front and flow over the top, but because this skateboard has this lip, the air can't flow up and over, so it's going beneath and around the bottom wheels. Let me see if I can. So you can see right there what's happening at the bottom by the front wheel, and the air is just hitting that solid metal plate, and then it's flowing out around the edges. So we've got that happening. All right, that's at 53 miles an hour. Let's get this thing turned up a little bit. So this is at 107 miles per hour, and you can see it's just a mess. The air is hitting this front lip, and it is not it's not necessarily flowing down and following the contours of the body. You see a little bit of turbulence here, and then the airflow is just separating from the body. And unlike the Blitz Speeder, with the Blitz Speeder we saw that airflow following right along the contours of the body, but as soon as that airflow breaks off, you're getting this pressure differential that is going to be a problem for this vehicle. And that's what we saw on Saturday, that it did okay. One, because it's so light, but it just ultimately was beaten out by cars that had better aerodynamic profiles. And I think, again, if that metal plate was open, that the air would flow right through and beneath the actual skateboard. Instead, we're getting this horrible airflow. So let's see. This is at 134 miles per hour, and it's not that it's not getting any better. This is not ideal in the least. So you're getting an idea of what you do and do not want to see. So this skateboard did all right, but I think it was more so the fact that it was light. But when it came down to it, when you get into the deeper levels of our tournament and you start racing against cars with great aerodynamic profiles like the Blitz Speeder, you can't get away with this level of turbulent airflow. So that car skateboard, this thing, the skate Grom, did not live up to, well, I don't know what the expectations were, but again, right here, that piece being solid is why the air was hitting this thing and then building up. It couldn't flow over the top because of this lip, and we just ended up with airflow separating from the skateboard. It's no good. It's no good. Now, one car that we had talked about the most aerodynamic shape being a teardrop. A teardrop shape is the most aerodynamic shape there is, and the least amount of drag. So ideally, you'd like to find a car that mimics a teardrop. And we have the McLaren Speedtail, which is a real car that the engineers actually designed with the intention of mimicking teardrop shape, and you can see that throughout the design of the car. But we have another one that is this Finding Nemo car that is obviously based on the character, but I think in basing the car around the character, they also got the teardrop shape in there more so than really any other car that we have in the fleet. And you can see, obviously it's Nemo, but you go over the top and you've got this teardrop shape. So it's essentially, this is about as close as we are going to get to a teardrop on wheels. And we are going to put it in the wind tunnel and see if this teardrop on wheels, what kind of airflow are we seeing? Are we seeing the kind of airflow that we would expect to see from a teardrop shaped object, or will it be something different and unexpected? Now, there is the fact that the bottom of the car is flat, so we have the teardrop, but it doesn't really maintain under the bottom because there's a flat plate there. So we'll see. Let's take a look at Nemo. If I can not drop him. Let's take him over to the wind tunnel. Take a look here. And so I'm thinking what we should see, what we would like to see ideally, is that the air hits the front of this car and flows up and over, stays connected to the body all the way down to the bottom, and then tails off back here in this area. What I actually think will happen in looking at this is that the air is going to hit this front area, come up here, and I don't think that it's going to stay connected to the body past this little white marker. In fact, I think we're going to start to see separation right in this area. I think it's going to come up, and we're just going to start to see turbulent air and the flow breaking off from the body right around here. We'll see. And let's go ahead and turn this thing on and see what we can get. So this is at 67 miles per hour, again, where we're starting. And you can see that the air hits the front and then has to do something. It has to go over, under, around. And we see the air, if we look at this first stream, hitting, and it appears that most of that air is going beneath. But we do see some air that's coming up over the top. And it's hard to tell what's happening with the air from the second stream, because as it comes up, it is meeting the air from the third stream, which let's go ahead and turn the speed up. And sometimes in turning up the speed, we can make some more observations. So now we're starting to see that at least that third stream is following the contours of the roof line, but it's separating. And you can see that it's separating right here. All of this air is just tailing off. And what happens is the high pressure builds up in the front when the air hits the front of the car. And once it breaks off from the body, from that point on where it breaks off to the back, it's creating lower pressure. And that is creating pressure drag, which essentially is working to slow the car down. It's moving base in this direction, and it's working to slow the car down. And that is not what you want. And the pressure drag increases when the flow separation occurs. So the earlier the flows kind of separate from the body of the car, then that's when pressure drag is going to increase. If this air was flowing all the way to the back and then separating back here, then there would be less pressure drag. So let's go ahead and turn this up. We're at 94 miles per hour. Turn this up. We're now at 134 miles per hour. And there we go. We have the Finding Nemo. Let me see if I can turn this up a little more. This is at 174 miles per hour. And you can clearly see that the airflow, just like I thought, it's separating right there. You can see it. It's just separating from the body. And if we compare that to what we saw with the Blitz Speeder, it's not going to be helpful to this car. So even though this Finding Nemo car is shaped like a teardrop, and the teardrop is the most aerodynamic shape there is, has the lowest drag coefficient, it doesn't translate to this car because the airflow is just not sticking to the body of the car. And that is what we are seeing, and why you can go ahead and pick this Finding Nemo car to race on Saturday, but it's not, just lower your expectations, because if it's racing any of the cars that are in the class of the Blitz Speeder, the Gazella R, the Draftnator, it's going to have a hard time keeping up. So that is the Finding Nemo car. And just to kind of explain in a little bit more detail what we're talking about, we've got two things. So there's the Coanda Effect that explains how basically a moving fluid like air tends to follow a curved surface. So that's why we're seeing the air flow, especially with a car like the Blitz Speeder. The air is following that curved surface. And with the Blitz Speeder, the air follows that curved surface from the front all the way to the back of the car. And that is really what we want to see. What we don't want to see is the air separate. When that air separates and sort of breaks up the Coanda Effect, then it creates a pressure differential, which creates pressure drag, and that is a problem. So the air that moves across the top of the car, it's moving slower, and that creates higher pressure. So the air hits the front of the car, and then some of the air has to go over the top, some of the air has to go under the bottom, and the air that goes over the top is moving slower and creates higher pressure, and then the air moving under the car is moving faster, and that creates low pressure. And the pressure wants to go from high to low, so that's the pressure differential that we have. But in terms of the drag, we have the high pressure is at the front of the car where the air is building up, and then once that flow starts to separate from the body, it creates low pressure at the back end. So there is pressure drag. For a car like the Blitz Speeder, where the air is staying completely attached to the body, then there's friction drag, which is the drag that's caused by the air moving across the surface of the car. And always important is to remember that the faster that these cars go, faster any object moves through the air, the more drag is a factor, and drag increases. Our track is set up to race these cars at the highest speed possible. So drag is a factor, gravity is a factor, and friction is a factor, because the wheels, if a car doesn't get a good launch, it will bounce back and forth around our track. The wheels will rub up against the sides of the track, creating friction, which works to slow the cars down. So the cars that can minimize the impact of those forces, gravity, drag, and friction, are the cars that are going to do best on the track. And we see that time and time again. We had another car that was kind of strange. that raced on Saturday that a viewer picked, and it was this one. It is the Power Rocket, and this car was interesting because it just had so many strange openings. It had a sort of rocket theme designed to it, but in the back, the wing, let's get this focused in, it's round, which is something we don't see. Usually the wings, and I'm calling this a wing because I don't know what else I'd call it, but usually the wings that we see are flat, and that is, we know what to expect with that. This one was round, but then also it kind of has this Batmobile vibe going to it. So it has this canopy opening here, but then there are no windows, so it's just two openings there. This part in the front, this little rocket motor, there's some space around there. So we've had cars that have had little cone pieces or nose pieces, but it's been solid, so the air hits them, and then it's kind of trapped there and has to, go over, under, and around, however it's set up. But with this one, it's got some openings there, so it's not completely solid, so the air can pass through. And then we were kind of curious about what happens after the air passes through, and now it's back in this area. So we're going to put this car in the wind tunnel to get an idea of what exactly is happening. How is the air flowing over, under, around, or through this car? And on the back end, what is happening when the air gets to this point? So we're going to go ahead and put this one in the wind tunnel. And again, if there is a car that you want to see in the wind tunnel, all you have to do, you've got a little bit of time, we'll be going for another 20 minutes or so. Just go to AtTheTrack.live, select the Choose Your Car tab. You'll be taken to that page, find the number of the car, and just drop that into the chat, and I will pull the car. But right now, we're going to look at this Power Rocket, and just want to get it lined up. And again, I think it's very Batmobile-like, but it didn't do all that well on Saturday, but it did have some pretty solid competition that it was going up against. So I can't blame it too much for not performing up to par, but I do want to see what happens with the airflow. So let's get this started. Our baseline of 67 miles per hour. And you can already kind of see what's happening is that the air is hitting that cone area and then pushing up, and it's just up here. It's already detached, and that's not what you want to see. Let's go ahead and turn this up a bit. I'll see if I can change the angle. So you can see how the air is hitting right in that little cone nose piece area, and then it's just coming off in all types of ways, and none of that is good for this car in terms of speed on the track. So we're already seeing just this separation right here. Air comes in, hits that, flies up over the top, and then back here it's pretty much just a mess. But that's at 80 miles per hour. Let's go up. This is at 121, and all you're seeing is just even more turbulence and separation in these areas, and that is not what you want to see. That's not going to help this car at all. Trying to see if any of the air is passing through, because we did say all right, told you that that nose cone area was not solid, so air could pass through, but it's just not the kind of airflow that we really want to see. And you can, I think if this car, if it didn't have that nose, if it didn't have the nose cone area, if it just sloped down right from the driver's cockpit right down to the front, then we might have something. But right now, this car, I can just see and look at this, the way the air is flowing, and understand why it did so poorly on Saturday. This is 147 miles per hour, and this is what we've got, just far too much turbulence, and that is not good. I forget what the weight was on this car, but that could have been a factor as well. So yeah, this is not what you want to see. And it's hard to tell with these fantasy cars because they've got so many strange designs and lines and shapes and little added extra things that you wouldn't see on a normal car, that it's hard to predict what's going to happen with them on the track. But I think that we're starting to get a pretty good idea of what to look for on the track. And once we know what to look for we are getting an idea of what to look for in the wind tunnel. Seeing the way the air flows over, under, and around the car in the wind tunnel, then kind of gives us an idea about what's going to happen with the car on the track. Of course, there are different factors. The weight is has a big impact. There's the weight, and then we also have gravity, and we have friction. And it really depends. Does the car get a good solid launch? If it does, then it's got a shot. But then the other things come into play. And what we see on the track is the impact of drag is that it ends up like, let's say we have these two cars are racing. And they're going down the track, and let's say this car is in the lead. What we see on our track is sometimes the car that's in the lead looks like it slows down, and the other car looks like it gains speed and passes it. Well, we know that because of the way our track is set up, it's a flat drag track. So it's not a gravity track. So the cars are not going to gain speed as they move down the track. They're only going to be losing speed. So the cars that lose speed at a slower rate are going to appear faster. So we'll have a car that's in the lead, and then it just starts to look like it slows down, and it looks like the other car passes it by and gains speed. Well, we know that's not the case. So what is happening is those forces are acting against the car that's in the lead. The car that looks like it slows down, gravity, friction, drag are all operating against that car, and therefore the other car, which has those same forces impacting it, but to a lesser degree, looks like it is speeding up because the gravity, the drag, the friction is slowing down the car in the lead, less so on the car that's trailing, and the car that's trailing passes it by. Now, when this happens at the back end of our track, we know that usually the cars we see that with are cars that are heavy or cars that are really light. So cars that are at extreme ends of our weight spectrum get affected at the back end of the track noticeably. So cars that are very light, so I would say those are cars in the high to mid 20 gram range. Light cars get to the end of the track, towards the back end of the track, and drag starts to slow them down. When we have heavy cars, I think the force that is acting most to slow them down, depending on their aerodynamic profile, the force that's acting most to slow them down is gravity, because they're just the heavier cars, and both the cars get launched out with the same amount of force. But we know that if you have a heavier car, in order for it to move and maintain speed of a smaller car, it would actually need more force. But it's not getting more force. It's getting exactly the same amount of force as the car that it's racing. So if the car that it's racing is a lighter car that's been given more force, we know that ultimately the heavier car, gravity's going to get it. Now, we did have the Superbird, which was a heavy car, but with great aerodynamic lines that did pretty well on the track. So there's a number of factors that go into it, but we do know just from observation that really heavy cars, so cars that are in the 40 gram plus weight range, and cars that are very light also get impacted at the back end of our track in different ways. But for the light cars, definitely drag is serving to slow them down. So it's just something to look for. It's why we're a science-based program, making observations and collecting data. And fortunately for us, the data comes in the form of racing Hot Wheels cars, so it couldn't make me any happier. I think there is one that I wanted to try out, one last one that I don't think... This car is not going to be able to race on our track because the launcher that I designed is basically set for cars, and trucks with their wider stance typically don't fit in there. So I have a whole box full of Hot Wheels trucks that I thought were cool and I might find something to do with in the future, but they can't race. But I am interested. I picked this one up recently, the Monster Dairy Delivery Truck, and it's just a dairy truck that's been turned into a monster truck. So I'm going to crack this open, which is something I usually don't do. I usually don't open new cars on Wind Tunnel Wednesday, but I'm doing that today because I just want to see this car in the wind tunnel. And I can show you here that this is the base of our launcher, and the cars, grab one, the cars fit into these launch channels. And you can see there's the launch channel right there, but the trucks are just too wide to fit. They won't fit because of those wide wheels. So this truck will never get to race in this launcher unless I redesign it to make it wider to fit trucks, which one day I might do. But for right now, it will not fit. But I just want to take a look at it in the wind tunnel because it has just a terrible aerodynamic profile. And while we have the Blitz Speeder, which probably has the best aerodynamic profile, we have this one. C. Del Rosario. Hey, how you doing? Glad you could stop by. If you have a car that you want to see in the wind tunnel, go to AtTheTrack.live, select the choose a car option, and let me know which one it is, and I'll get it in before we leave. But looking at this one, this is just... We've got this solid front right here. So the air is going to hit that. The air is going to hit the grill. And then what happens after that is beyond me. Some of the higher air streams are going to hit this windshield and come up over the top. But I think for the most part, I think we're going to see a lot of turbulent, swirling air just in the front and the back. Air coming off these tires around the side. And I think it's going to be a complete and total mess. There is not any doubt in my mind that this is probably one of the least aerodynamic cars that we have ever tested, but I think I might keep it around just to show the difference. If you remember what we saw with the Blitz Speeder, the way that that air just hugged the body of the car right until the end and tailed off. It's not going to be the case with this monster delivery truck. So I'm going to go ahead and stick it in the wind tunnel, and we will see exactly what happens here. Let's switch over here, get this thing in, and let's sort of move it forward, get it lined up right. And it is not, there we go. This will not be pretty. But then again, who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am, because again, I have been making these observations about what happens with these cars in the wind tunnel. All right, we have the monster dairy delivery truck, and we're gonna put this on. And this is at 80 miles per hour. And now I will say, it's not as awful as I thought. But what we are seeing is right here in the front, is that this air hits the front and this bottom area, and has to figure out, like, all right, I gotta move somewhere. But ultimately, we just have high pressure just building up, and even if this had normal Hot Wheels wheels and we could race it on the track, it would not be fast. So let's turn this up, because this car is so tall that it's at the top end of our fifth stream up here. And let's see, we've got, I mean, the air, like right now, this stream, this third stream, hitting the front, building up, and then going up here. And then the air, some of the air is coming around the side, just a little bit, but it is coming up over the top, probably because this windshield is so short right here. And it's not the all-out mess that we saw with the Power Rocket, definitely, and perhaps because this is more of a traditional style and shape. Christopher, let's see. I put my numbers on here. Where? So if you just drop the number just right here in the chat, either on Instagram or on YouTube, just drop the number in the chat. Then I'll go grab the car, because I don't see it. I don't see any numbers right now, but looking at this dairy truck, it almost makes me wish that I had a wider track. The only option I have right now for these cars or for the trucks, is to bring out my gravity track and race them that way. And at some point I might do that, but I'd have to work out the camera setup, and it would be a little more difficult to do. But I might have to do that. Might have to do that pretty soon. All right, let's go ahead and pop in this. We've got a Lamborghini, and I don't remember if I don't remember exactly who picked this Lamborghini Veneno. It raced on Saturday and was a pretty solid car. Good pick. I mean, it's hard to go wrong with the Lamborghinis. It really is. But all Lamborghinis are not equal. and there are some, we have about 14 in the fleet, and some of them are definitely faster than others, and I'm not gonna tell you which ones are faster than others, but I definitely know that of the Lamborghinis, there are certain ones that are faster than others. Now this one, it's a little bit different, actually. Well, we can. I'll run it in the wind tunnel. Oh, okay. Yeah. So this was Christopher picked this car on Saturday. And this one's interesting because it does have these openings right here on the side. Now this wind, when the air is flowing, it's not going to come around this side, but on the actual Lamborghinis, these openings are definitely designed to control the airflow and bring it to the back of the car, straight through. The Hot Wheels cars mimic some of that, but not all of it. So sometimes you end up with openings that on the real car would help the airflow, but on the Hot Wheels version, they don't necessarily. So let's go ahead and take a look and see about the aerodynamic profile of the Lamborghini Veneno, and see what we've got. So we always start off right here at 67 miles per hour, and we're kind of seeing that same airflow that we would expect from a Lamborghini that we saw with the Blitz Speeder, where the air hits the front of the car, and it's that Coanda Effect where the air is just flowing and following the contour of the body and right up to the top. And the question is, when do you begin to see any airflow separation? So we're going up, we're at 121 miles per hour, and still looking good. Still looking very good. And again, it's what you would expect with a Lamborghini, because the windshield is at that angle where it doesn't really obstruct the airflow. And so you go from the hood to the windshield to the roof, right down the back, and this is a solid pick. And this is up to 147 miles per hour. $174. And of course, we do see the little vortex right here as the air sort of tails off, comes up from the bottom, pulls down from the top. But this is a similar aerodynamic profile to what we saw with the Blitz Speeder. So if you're just basing your picks on, now we're up to 188 miles per hour. $201 miles per hour. All right. So based on that profile view, that is pretty ideal. That's what you want to see from a car in the wind tunnel if you want it to compete with the Blitz Speeder. Now, there's other things on this car that may not make it ideal to race against the Blitz Speeder, and I'll go to this view and show that, which is, I'm looking at these pockets right here. And what happens to the air as the car is moving down the track? What happens when the air is coming around the sides to this area? That is kind of a question, because the body curves in. So if the air flow is going to flow along this body curve, it's going to be pulled right into this area. And then what happens there? Does this act more like a parachute style element that serves to slow the car down? Because we already said that the air cannot pass straight through. In the real car, if there is an opening like this, it's designed to have that air pull through and pull out towards the back in whichever way the engineers want it to flow in order to reduce drag. Everything else is good, but it's going to be the small differences that kind of come into play. And when we look at a car like that, Veneno versus this Blitz Speeder, you can see some similarities, but the Blitz Speeder does not have anything on the sides. There's no other elements on the Blitz Speeder that you would look at and say, well, that might impact the car, that might impact the drag, it might impact the car in some other way, or we have a question about how that different element would affect the car. But just looking at the profile from that center part, very similar. Low profile, hood, windshield, roof, very streamlined, slanted, low angle on all of those. And when we compare them, what's the difference? Why didn't this Lamborghini beat out the other cars? And I think that it may have something to do with this element. If I had to guess, I'm not certain, and I'd have to run a lot more races with this car. But we have seen other Lamborghinis perform much better, and they don't have all of these added elements. They're much more a solid, just sort of angled, have a more angled body without a lot of extra elements on there. So it is what we're looking for. We're looking for a car that can beat the Blitz Speeder. The Blitz Speeder is our fastest and fleet champion. The Blitz Speeder is the fastest Hot Wheels car on the planet. If you think that you can find a car that is faster than the Blitz Speeder, all you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live, select the choose a car option, and then you will be taken to the page that has all 850 cars listed. You can scroll through, find the car that you want to race, come back 11 a.m. Pacific on Saturday. Let me know the car. Just drop the number of the car into the chat. I'll pull it and we will race it, and we will see if you can find the car that is going to take out the Blitz Speeder and become our fastest in-fleet champion. Wind Tunnel Wednesdays, we're just putting the cars in there, looking at the aerodynamic profile, seeing how that translates to what the cars do on the track. And after we put enough cars in the wind tunnel, put enough cars on the track, we should be able to start to see correlation between the two things that we're observing. And that's what it's all about, observation and experimentation. If you want more information about our science program, all about aerodynamics, all you have to do is go to our website, aerodynamics.com, or you can go to our Instagram profile, Aerodynamics, and all of the information that you want is there, and you can find out how to bring our science program to your school or your organization or your special event. And it is, you can contact me and I'll answer any other questions that you may have. So, there we go, Wind Tunnel Wednesday. I am Coach James, and for Wind Tunnel Wednesday, for AtTheTrack.live, and for All About Aerodynamics, until next time, I will see you at the races.